I wanted to know, how do the mind work? What is feelings? What do you mean you have an emotional breakdown? Oh, I have trauma. And from that moment on, I wanted to be in the world of psychology. I tell no one my story.
You don't tell anybody your story. Oh, wow. That's more pressure on me. I got to do a really good job not telling your story. Practically, how did we get here? Like, explain the backstory, our relationship.
I would say it started with your journey to figure out how to relieve this pressure of not wanting to release your mom in a very vulnerable time, wanting to figure it out, but also wanting to give up. And your journey and wanting to figure it out led you to a platform that allowed me to be on the other side to assist. When I first met you, you was pretty ready, for what I can gather. I didn't see any resistance.
What I really wanted was for you to tell me it's okay to never talk to her again.
Yes, yes. I think that's what you really wanted. And I didn't see what that would fit in.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna suck. um, Man, how do you expect this? So we kind of talked for a couple months, and I feel like I had a breakthrough like on the third month, and that was because of your story. I mean, everything we did up until that point, you're asking me to describe to you who I am. What are the things that I can't change about me? And I was working on that, and it was, those things were definitely a good start. But then at some point, you shared your story with me, and well, you told me that you 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 can't break it off with your mom. I'm gonna teach you how to love your mom without her changing. And uh, my first profound realization in therapy with you was that there are options I didn't know existed. Um, I feel like I'm a smart person. I feel like I've got things figured out. Um, but then you still hear these paths that you didn't know existed. And I never considered even the fact that I could love my mom again without her changing. That if I thought of that on my own, it wouldn't have made sense. But when you told me that, it made so much more sense. And then um, you had to find love for your mom. You eventually, when you shared your story with me. So I want to get to that point, but I think first we should let's talk about how you came into this world. So tell me about where you were raised and what your childhood was like.
Yeah. So I was raised in Tampa, Florida from birth to 15. I lived with my mom from where I can remember, I believe, from birth to about 5 or 6. And then I transitioned from home to home to home till I was 15. In the time I was with my mom, I've known her to be a user of drugs and alcohol, very heavy. I was pretty young, too young to really understand what that means, but I moved around a lot in her mission to accomplish that sort of activity. Something happened. I think my mom went to jail, or a real dramatic event happened where she had to bring me to my grandmother home. I lived with my grandmother, my grandfather, my step-grandfather, and my Aunt Bonnie for maybe a year and a half. My grandmother dies, and my dad is still around. He's around, but not living, not with my mom at this time. So my dad remarried. I went to go transition and go live with my dad to try that out in North Carolina. And the lifestyle that my dad lived was very religious. He was a preacher. Everything had to be perfect. I had just came from such a chaotic world where nothing really matters. Just make it to sleep and make it to school and make it, there was no structure. So I go live with my dad my 5th grade year, and it was just structure, and I struggled so much. And begged my mom, say, "Mom, could you please let me go back home? I'll be good."
Was it structure without love, or was it structure with love?
It was hard for me to tell then.
Yeah.
I was too young it all felt so mean.
Mm.
Everything felt like I couldn't get it right. If you leave your socks at a relative house, you got spankings.
Yeah.
You got chastised for that. And it felt abusive
Yeah.
from where I was sit at that age.
Yeah.
But that 5th grade year, I went home, went to North Carolina with my dad and begged my mom to come back. So she let me come back that 6th grade year. So now 6th grade, I am back into what's normal for me. And it really wasn't a transition. I just got to be free.
Yeah.
At this time, I'm living with my Aunt Bonnie. And my aunt, she's always was the aunt that took all the kids in no matter what. She didn't parent. She just provided.
Mm.
She just had an unconditional love for family members. And she would just bring anyone in. So we were I always knew I had a home
That's great.
at my Aunt Bonnie's, yes. Now, my Aunt Bonnie was a lovely person. She just didn't have she was also broken.
Yeah.
Because she was broken, I now have learned why I couldn't receive a consistent love from her. But something about the way she gave back to family, it molded her in some sense of love for everyone. That's how she displayed love. Just
Yeah.
always had an open door.
She didn't take you in regretfully or anything, right? Like, she was still able to treat you decently?
My mom agreed to pay my aunt money if she take me back because I begged to come back to Florida. And I understand that to be the agreement. So a lot of the stuff is your mom owed me money. Tell your mom to come back and pay me. I'm gonna give you back to your mom if I don't get my money.
And up until this point, have you been the type of kid that acted out at all?
When I went back home, I couldn't adjust. When I say home in North Carolina, that first year, 5th grade, and I beat a kid up real bad on the bus. But that was normal in Tampa, Florida. So I got in a lot of trouble for that, and I couldn't understand. But he was calling me names, and I felt so justified, but it was so unacceptable where I was there.
Yeah.
So that's when I really realized that this being tough or going to prove yourself wasn't acceptable for society.
Yeah.
I learned that in the structured environment with my dad and my stepmom, but I didn't like it. I
Yeah.
begged to get back in an environment that allowed me to just be free. That's what freedom felt like.
Yeah.
No structure, chaos felt like you care because you're not disciplining me. You're not. So that means you understand, you get me, you're not judging me. Now, what I can tell you about my mom is, okay, so I lived down the street from where her drug house was. I lived with my aunt, my step-grandfather, which is my grandmother's husband, and I lived with her boys. This is 80s, right? 80s, early 90s. My aunt she was still into like smoking marijuana and hanging out with her friends, but she made sure we was fed every day. Late nights for her was almost hanging out with friends or boys. She was still in her life. So that particular year, my 7th grade year, going into my 8th grade year, it was my hardest year of fear that no one knew about, not even my brother. Because I'm living with my grandfather and he was very perverted. So I'm the only girl in the home and I get to hang out at night. But I will always walk in and my grandfather would be watching like porn or something as I'm walking past. I used to have family members that would come over and hang out with me, and he would do things to them, never to me, that was very inappropriate. He was the candy man. So he was the grandfather with the money, what we thought was money value, and If you get on his good side, you can always have chips, candy, and sodas, unlimited. So when my cousin used to come over to stay the night, he would come in the room and he would shake her to wake her up so she can come in the next room with him. And I would feel the shaking. We're in the bed, sleeping together. And he would leave because he can't wake her up. And we would whisper to each other. I was like, okay, if you come back, don't wake up.
Yeah.
And we're waiting. He would come back. And she would just shake. I said, just don't wake up. So his only goal was to get her and bring her to another room. I don't know where my aunt was. She would stay out all night. I don't know why she and I would be left alone and he'd have that access to us. But that was very common. Like everybody is outside. This is broad daylight. He would call her in the back, give her $20 and just molest her. And she'll come back and we'll laugh about it. We didn't know no better. We didn't know that this was unacceptable behavior. And I was like, oh, he touched your butt. Ew, ha, 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 ha. And sometimes I can see him having transactions of women coming into home that we know to be prostitutes.
And your fear that you mentioned, was that your fear of he might approach you?
He was the candy man, which means he sold the alcohol, he sold the candy, and he will always have his a group of guys on the porch. And as I'm running in and out of the house, I'm always having little gestures of older guys like hitting on me. I will always fear what access he will give for me being the
like try to
vulnerable.
pimp you out or something to his friends.
Now, one particular time, there was a white truck that went around the neighborhood a couple of times watching me. I know nothing. I see it. It's normal business for me. I know they're searching for a prostitute. But as I'm walking, my mom is blocks away watching me. I don't know how many times she's been watching over me while I'm running in and out of the streets. But this particular time, the guy came and he stopped. And, I'm tough. I blows him off. And he circled back around again. This time my mom was in the car with him. And she said, you see that one right there? You better not never. She posed a threat to this guy who was looking for a prostitute, possibly a girl to pick up and kidnap or what have you. She had such a resilient and she was different, like a boldness in her. I don't think she knew that guy. And she told me to get my in the house.
Yeah.
She's always called me this fast word. Get your fast A in the house. And the next day, maybe a week, felt like the next day, she sat me down. This is one of our most special moments, and I don't think I had another one after this one. I'm nervous. I was very afraid of my mom. My mom was she was a beast. Like she was intimidating. She said, I gotta ask you a question. I want you to tell me the truth. I said, okay. She said, have your granddad ever touched you? And I was like, no, you never touched me. She said, tell me the truth. You better not lie to me. And I said, he never touched me, but he touched my cousin. And she said to me, if he ever put his hands on you, I'll kill him. She said, do you know that your cousin is his child? So my Aunt Bonnie had a child by my step-grandfather. So my mom knows the secret of the family of this aunt who was molested so much by my grandfather till she birthed this child. I never understood why she allowed me to live in a home with this guy, knowing that he had the capability of going that far with a young kid. So that next, maybe a weekend or so later, maybe it was just maybe 7 o'clock in the evening, my mom came through. And this particular time, she came into the house because she wanted alcohol for free. And she got her a can of beer. And he said, pay me my money for that. She said, you go to hell, to my grandfather. So I would give my mom play by play what I experienced with my cousin. So the buildup was real for her. So when he told her to take this alcohol back or pay him his money, she was that was her way in to give him everything she got. So a big brawl happened. She said, "You go to hell. You're sitting around here. You're touching them. You better not never touch mine." I'm with my friends. I'm like, she's so embarrassed. And why is she doing this? And she said, "Misa," that's what she called. "Get over here." Everybody, I would say up to about 15 people are around. It's chaos now. And she's telling everything to my grandfather about you. And I don't see how in the world, she called out my aunts. Why would they let you do this? Now, it was like everybody know who he is.
Yeah, but nobody talks about it.
Nobody's talking about it. But did you know that he's touching your daughter? And you sit around here, so she gave everybody a little bit of peace of her mind. She called me over, made it clear that he can never put his hands on me. And he went and got his gun. He said, "If you don't leave, I'll kill you dead right now." It was so embarrassing for him. So he was willing to kill my mom to get her to shut up. My mom went back down. I was probably the most terrified I've ever been in my life when it came to my mom. I realized what kind of mom I had at that point.
Yeah.
Apparently, years later, I learned that he hated my mom. My mom was the one he would never touch. My mom was the one that challenged him all the time as the stepfather in the home. And my aunt was the one that would give in.
Yeah.
So this is 7th grade going into my 8th grade year.
Yeah.
He was now the only person we had outside our grandma that supplied our financial needs. And it's the home we went to for stability. After my grandmother died.
He took advantage of that.
I think he was taking advantage before.
How old was Aunt Bonnie when she got pregnant with his kid?
I never did the research.
Okay.
I don't know what the age difference was, but I want to say she was definitely a teenager.
Okay. I mean, I guess it really doesn't matter. It's still.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what was the fallout after that big debacle?
It went back under the rug again.
Uh,
Nobody talked about it anymore. They didn't stop coming around, or they didn't hold him accountable. It wasn't a disgusting story. It almost looked like, there go Linda again, stirring up her mess. It didn't come off as a person that needs to be held accountable. Call the cops. You touched my daughter. I can't believe. It was, we need him and we're not letting him go.
Yeah.
I was still my home. I still wasn't protected. And nobody still said, okay, we're taking her in because we don't want this to happen to her. He didn't treat me any different.
Yeah.
I don't recall him coming to me one day and say, "You told your mom that not?" No.
Yeah.
It just disappeared like nothing happened.
Wow.
And we went back to business as usual. Now I'm going into my 8th grade year. Life was pretty normal. I'm developing relationships with boys.
Yeah.
So I always kind of hang out with the guys who selling the drugs. Someone would sell it to my mom.
But you're not doing drugs yourself, right?
No. I believe something happened between 0 and 5 when I was with my mom. She exposed us to something, but my brother never drank or smoked a day in his life either.
And did you have resentment towards her?
It was more embarrassment when I was a kid, not resentment. Because everyone seemed to have their parent around in some form that was functional. And I was Linda's daughter. And whatever that meant at the time, that's how they classified me to. So I didn't feel empowered, felt very demeaning.
Yeah.
Going into my 9th grade year, my mom dies of pneumonia, a disease that you just go to the make it to the hospital and get some antibiotics and clean it up. We learned that my mom was in the hospital. She was taken to the hospital the first day. And my Aunt Bonnie said, we're going to take you to go see your mom on, on tomorrow. So tomorrow came, and my aunt was hanging out with her friends, and she didn't make it that night to take us to see our mom. So maybe 2 or 3 o'clock that morning, my granddaddy told me, yeah, your mom, she died. But it came with such a release for him. It wasn't, I just know I learned the information, and I learned it from a place of, whoop, mom died. And then my Aunt Bonnie came in later on that night and saw me crying and doing all the things. And I remember crying, but I don't remember like feeling. So she comes in and she say, who told you your mom died? It wasn't so much of giving me that hug and say, I'm so sorry, your mom's gone. It was more trying to figure out, how did I learn before she can tell me?
Yeah.
So after my mom dies, I got all this attention because my mom died, and I'm loving it so much where I can't feel the grief of my mom, because now everyone is, woe is me.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how that felt.
Mm.
I didn't know what to do with all that attention. And I was, family members that never only saw me as Linda's daughter was now embracing me and giving me a hug. I had a crew of guys that was, pouring out alcohol on the strength of my mom dying, picking out outfits they're gonna wear to the funeral. Ah, so much attention.
Yeah, which you never really experienced up until that point.
Yeah.
Sure. And it also is taking you away from being able to understand what happened with your mom.
What's happening?
Like you don't.
It almost felt like the coolest thing that can happen.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And you say you were crying without really feeling. Did you feel guilty for not feeling the right way?
I didn't know what the right way was.
Okay.
I
So young still.
still too young.
Did a part of you feel like your mom had already died to you while she was still alive?
Because outside of my grandma and my grandmother died, I don't even remember feeling for my grandma. I don't know where my emotions were at that time. I don't remember what it felt like to feel. I was so disconnected with emotional love. Everything was so on the surface. And the love I got from friends in my little group felt realer than like what I would get. And no one came to me and said, I love you, you're my homegirl, I love you. But it was something they did that was different from what I would see on a regular basis. So to answer your question, did I feel like my mom was dead before she died? My mom always told me she loved me, if I think it out loud. She never struggled with saying, I love you, mommy love you, you know your mom love you. That was easy, but I never could like receive it in a way of feeling like when she walk away, I cry. I say, no, Mom, please come take me. The only time I begged for my mom, and I felt like it was a manipulative tact when I was trying to get back to Florida.
Yeah.
To like experience this world of freedom.
And did your strict dad ever say, I love you?
Maybe when we was younger, we probably got it. But when I knew to understand it and feel it, we didn't share those words.
Love, the emotion of love, it was just a language that you couldn't speak yet at this time.
Nope.
Yeah.
I can say that. My dad come in town to do the funeral, and somebody said it'd be best for these kids to go live with their dad now. And that started my journey back home, back to North Carolina. My dad did his best to try and normalize me as best as possible. With my mom dying, all that strict business was out the door. From the sympathy he had from us losing our mom,
Yeah.
I was able to get away with way more than what I probably should have been getting away with at that age. I came to this town, a very small town, North Carolina, where he was the preacher, church, eat, sleep, drink the Bible. And I wanted my first stereo, I remember. And that brought so much controversial in the home with my stepmom, who have her own daughter in there. She have her daughter, which is my sister. We're 5 years apart. And they have my stepbrother, he's a little couple of months older than me. They got a system going on. And here is this little ratchet girl coming in and her demands wanted my stereo to play all my ratchet music loud in the home.
And the stepmom doesn't want you to date her kids, probably.
I don't, well, my sister was 5 years younger, but I'm only imagining
Yeah.
that I'm interrupting their system.
Yeah.
She was an awesome stepmom, but what are you going to do with me?
Yeah.
Coming in, I'm broken from my mom. I'm corrupt from my environment. I'm scarred from just life of no love and understanding. And then you guys say you love me? This is what love looks like in this environment?
Yeah.
I wasn't going for it. I felt trapped again. I felt like I wanted to go back home, but nobody wanted me by that time. So I turned North Carolina into Florida. I went back home a summer. They let me go back home for a summer, and I came back and I had got a mold of goals in my mouth. I came back with goals in my mouth. I'm the preacher's daughter.
Yeah.
Coming from Tampa, Florida, and I rebelled everything. I started wearing blue hair, red hair.
You sound like a pretty cool girl.
I was cool for what I needed at the time.
Yeah.
I was embarrassing. I had to be a big embarrassment. I had to move out because I wouldn't get along with my stepmom at the time.
Okay.
So I moved out to live with my brother. Now, at this time, I'm on my own.
Yeah.
In my senior year, I'm going to school, getting myself back and forth to school, signing my own late tardiness slips and, doing all the things that parents, I vouch that I need a parent, I don't have a parent. And I come to learn whatever I went through in Tampa prepared me to be able to live out on my own and not be so dependent on parenting. And I got through, and then I got pregnant months before I graduated,
Oh, man.
my senior year.
Wow. Was this a long-term boyfriend or?
Okay, so I was one of the drug dealers
Okay.
in the community, but I had an off and on relationship with my child's father for a year and a half. When I turned 18, which would have been the end of June, the 4th of July weekend, I said, I'm having sex. The second time I had sex, I got pregnant. And I was pregnant for 3 months before I knew it. I
Wow.
was running track, still doing all the activities, had my own drive to make it to school every day, and my own drive to do good in my classes, my own to make it to track meets, and work, and all the things. I was very self-sufficient, holding the whole baby in me the whole time and didn't know it.
Oh.
So now I'm 18 years old, pregnant with my first child, and graduating with a pregnant belly. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just know that I needed to take care of my kid. And I didn't have no other guidance.
And what path did your boyfriend take after the pregnancy?
I let him know. He might have tried to work it out maybe with 6 months. By the 9th month, we was broken up. Now, my stepmother and I, we fell out pretty good. It was real bad. So much why I moved out of the home. And when it was time for me to graduate, I invited all my family from Florida. Now, my family came from Florida, my aunts, the one we speak of, and all. It was a big deal to see Linda kid graduate. So they would come. They came to North Carolina and graduation. I gave them all the tickets and left my stepmom out. Some way or another, she knew the town. She figured out how to make it to my graduation as I walked the stage and gave her a half hello during that experience.
Oh.
Now I'm ready to have my baby.
Yeah.
I'm in the hospital. She got word that I was in the hospital. And my child's father wasn't there. Any other family members all my family is in Florida. I didn't have any friends. And the one person who walks through the door is my stepmom to help me get through the pushing
Wow.
of having my son.
Wow.
Yes, she did. And I gave her a run for her money. She didn't have to do none of that. She could have cut me off as much as I deserved it at the time.
But that must have been a surrender moment of some kind. Her coming in to help you like that. That must have been a realization for you.
Absolutely not.
Oh, day.
I'm still this hard up girl that don't feel nothing. I didn't know how to appreciate. I was like, what is she doing here?
Yeah.
Like, who called her? I was disgusted.
And that's amazing on her part that she probably read all that, knew all that, and she was there from the kindness of her heart
Absolutely.
without the appreciation.
She took us in and mothered us better than we even knew what a mother looked like. She's just a lovely person.
She sounds like the kind of person that lives up to the Christian values that you're supposed to. Like, I always heard that as a youngster being preached, but what I saw mostly was hypocrites.
Yeah.
That would have seen a pregnant girl and been like, you sinned. It's your own fault.
I should have been judged pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm the preacher's daughter now.
Yeah.
I'm still the preacher's daughter in this small town.
Yeah.
And she still shows up for me, despite of.
It's amazing.
What happened was I never thought about going to college. It was nothing in my line of thought process. I only went because the struggle started getting so hard. I was cleaning up homes with my dad. And we would go into these homes and clean the carpet of a theater that's in the home. And I would walk around these homes and be so inspired. Like, wow, people live like this. And I didn't want to clean the carpet all my life. And one day said, I'm going to school. Let's see what that do. I went to this college just because they say, oh, you can get in there with your GPA. My GPA was probably just knocking on 2.5-ish.
Okay.
And Black colleges allow you. I was working, going to school, and raising a kid, and had no mother figure to help. And one day I had to write a paper, and it pulled some things out of me. But then I realized, how in the world did she do this? Like, how do you have a kid? Like, I broke down because I couldn't understand, like, how do you have a kid and still survive in life? Like, it had really got hard. And then I realized, and she had a step kid, and I was so horrible with her. And having a kid is so hard. I need help. She was my stepmom, and she tried to help me, and I pushed her away. And I could understand how you can have a kid and not get help. But I apologized. I was like, I'm so sorry, because having a kid is so hard. She's the only one I can apologize for. My mom was dead. I needed someone to know that this is hard for me. Then one day she was like, let me take him. Let me take him and you go off to school.
Huh.
Like, and I could not do that. I could not let her take my kid. I was abandoned in my eyes. I could not do that to my kid. So after denying that, she agreed to take him on the weekends while I worked double shifts to make the money to survive a new week. I transitioned out of the Black college. I brought my GPA up high enough to make it to a traditional college. Now I'm at the University of Greensboro. I had a scholarship for being a single mom. Didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah.
Minority. I was considered a minority. So I was getting my whole education paid for. On the Black colleges, everybody knocking knuckles and hooking each other up. I'm not smart enough for a 3.5 in my eyes. I know this, but I did it.
Yeah.
I figured out how to maneuver the system.
That's still smart.
To get through.
Yeah.
So now I'm in a traditional college that says a 3.5 to get you in here, but would it keep you in here? Can you keep a 3.5? And now I'm seeing people from all cultures. I don't know how to receive the white population, the Asian population. Only thing I know is Black.
Yeah. Did the Black college help you?
It got me through the door. Absolutely. And I don't want to give that Black colleges don't help Black people, but the world is not Black. It didn't help me transition into the world. It just helped me understand how to network with Black people. It's not a bad idea to have Black colleges. Every culture should have something that sits with them to give them the comfort to feel accepted, to feel empowered, whatever that does.
Yeah.
It just didn't grow me.
Yeah.
Now I made it to a college that says it's a real life just about to get real for me. My first semester there, I struggled so hard till my GPA dropped. I wasn't a part of none of the activities at college. I didn't care about the clubs, no partying, no college life at all. I still just went to school, took care of my kid, and worked, and I still failed. I wrote the way I spoke,
Okay.
and what I spoke is what I learned in my world of the streets.
Yeah.
That did not fly in a traditional college.
It's more than just learning scholastically. It's kind of like learning how to be somebody new, right?
Yes,
Like it's a culture that you're adjusting to.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And I flunked out my first semester. They put me in academic probation. And the academic probation allow you to try again the next semester, or they're gonna kick you out. So the next semester, I'm staying focused. But it's still hard. They give me another chance and I flunk again.
Oh man.
Now I have to write a letter to the dean telling them why my GPA is so low and why I can't, or they're gonna kick me out. I write a letter. I give them my story. It was real. I'm a single mom. I'm not partying. I'm working. This is my GPA. This is all the tutoring classes I've taken. I gave him everything I had. I was able to write a letter to the dean, and he approved my letter for the first time in 10 years, him doing it to a student.
Wow.
I get another chance to bring my GPA up. The second semester of my second year, I flunk again.
Ah.
So for the second time, he approved my appeal to continue school without any breaks. And I was able to get a second chance
Dang.
to continue school.
Wow.
I knew if I quit, I didn't have enough fuel to say try it all over again.
Yeah.
So I could not quit.
Yeah.
From that point on, it got hard, but I would not stop. And that's when I realized what I wanted to do. I didn't know I wanted to be a therapist at the time.
Okay.
I just knew I wanted to figure out how the mind works. And I just stood fast from that moment on.
Has that informed the rest of your life in terms of giving people chances? Do you seem to have more grace because of your own experience in general?
I think it made it hard for me to accept people that gave up.
Wow. I can see that too.
Yeah. I was real hard on my son just from knowing how much power come out of not giving up.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pushed that on him real bad.
Okay, so you get a third chance and you pull it off?
That street stuff, that what I knew to survive was not working anymore. I needed to go and figure out where was I failing myself.
Hmm.
I seeked out tutors that can get me back to the fundamentals. I started phonics books, and reading them on my own. I started just seeking to be smart, and I'm hanging out with more diverse group of people, and they was teaching me without even knowing they were teaching me. And I started to want to speak properly. And then I started to really yearn for what it's like to be smart and did whatever it takes. I would fall asleep listening to audiobooks or reading books. I had started a book collection, anything that connected to phonics. And I just started teaching myself what I thought I didn't know.
Did any part of you worry about not sounding Black or not being Black enough anymore? Or somebody calling you like, you're a white girl now or anything like that?
I wasn't in the environment any longer where it mattered.
Hmm.
So in this traditional college, it's not cool trying to be black or white or anything. It was just having good grades was cool now.
Yeah.
And that's it. That was very much more important because now I still want to be cool,
Yeah.
but now I get to be cool on something that benefits me
Wow.
at the end.
That's cool. Have you been an open-minded person your whole life?
I wouldn't say I was.
Okay.
I was really focused on what was normal for me, and
Okay.
that's in the Black culture. I don't know, I just felt like we were better because I was Black, and because you're smart, that didn't mean anything to me because really you're better because you're actually in class making A's, and, kinda not knowing how to value those things
Yeah.
kept me very closed-minded,
You were kind of forced to open your mind then.
very much so. So I make it into this environment, and I'm opening up my mind in so many ways and embracing it and envying it at the same time. Like, who's your parents? Like, how did you guys, know how you know this stuff?
Is this when you decided to be a psychologist?
What happened in my college years? So now I'm a college student. These insurance people, it's called Prime America, I remember it to be, they're seeking out college students to help sell insurance. And this one agent might have caught me walking to class or something and started talking to me. And what are you going to college for? And I was like, I'm in college for business administration. And he was like, oh, yeah, you want to be business administration? Like, yeah. He was like, oh, let me help you. Um, I can help you own your own business. And I fell for it. I was like, wow, yeah, I want to do this. I started feeling like I was on my way. He said, come to my office. Let me get to know you a little bit. And I did the basic, oh, I'm a college student and I want to graduate in this and bid administration. And I want this. And he was like, what is your, what is it like? Like, what is your childhood like? What was life like for you? Like my childhood? So yeah. And I just remember giving him a story about me being molested as a child. I don't know how he pulled this out of me. And I talked about my cousin. So now we want to talk about my cousin. My Aunt Bonnie's oldest son, the one from the grandfather, had that same perverted mentality. So the same cousin molested me throughout the years of me living in a home with her and him. But what happened is at night when I'm going to sleep, he would come in the door and he would creep his hands in my sheets and fondle me. And I would just move. And he just want to get a touch. And I would just move all night long. And I don't know how I was fulfilling him, but this happened for years.
Hmm.
I told my aunt, and my aunt was like, "Child and boys don't want you." Right? It felt like I was making it up.
Hmm.
And she never confronted him on it. But I don't know what was wrong with me. I was also a beast. I'm hard in my eyes. Nobody touches me. I know how to fight. But I never fought. I never said, get out of my room. Like I felt like it was like I was like it was supposed to happen or something. So I'm sharing this story with him and he's asking me more and more and I'm bawling. I couldn't breathe. I'm telling him more of what it was to talk to my aunt about it, more of what I had learned with my mom and how much wrong that was that I had to live in that environment for years and nobody came back. I think he asked the question, did anyone come to try and save you? And I didn't know at the time I was supposed to be saved. I didn't know that I was actually experiencing what was abnormal for a child, a childhood. And he made me feel like something was wrong with that. Like this was not fair to you.
Yeah.
You should not have went through that. Someone should have saved you. And he scared me so bad I ran out.
Hmm.
And I don't know how he pulled that part out. Like, I used to fear something every night, thinking it would be probably these men that my grandfather would expose me to. But really, it was his son
Mm.
that I'm all night long.
Mhm.
And it got so bad. When I graduated from college, I started taking martial arts with my son. And I ended up being a martial art instructor myself.
Oh, wow.
I only wanted to do that so if anyone violate me ever again, I can just chop them up because I never had the boldness to stop it. I wasn't afraid of my cousin. I just didn't, I never would say, stop it, get out of here. This is happening. I don't sleep hard to this day because of a routine of expecting someone to come through the door.
Wow.
Maybe 2 years later, I'm going to my aunt's house to stay the night with her for the new year. I'm there in town because I'm trying to party with my cousins and bring the new year in. I came in the house, I laid on the couch, and I heard the door open. And it's my cousin, same cousin. He comes through the door, and I'm waiting on him to walk past. And I smell alcohol in my face. And I freeze up. My heart is beating fast. I'm waiting to figure out what's next. And he creeps his hands up the cover I was on and touched my butt. I thought I had it in me to give him a karate chop. I knew all the skills. I got this. I went right back into child mode, balled up, jumped up, ran into my aunt's room and said, "You don't touch me," something I said, like I was 5 years old. I did not defend myself. And to this day, I cannot understand what happened. When I don't fear you, I'm trained. I never want to be touched by anyone. And I already know what happened to me. And I still punked out like a little girl running to her mom. And I talked to my aunt. I was like, this is what happened last night. Because I'm grown. I can have this. She respect me now. I'm a college graduate. And everybody, I'm not that little girl that I have to like go in the bathroom and say, this is what happened to me. And she say no. And I was like, all right, fine. I can tell you now. So now I'm telling her, I said, Auntie Bonnie, this is what happened to me. And this, I didn't deserve this. Like what, this is what he did. And she said, I don't know what's wrong with that boy. She talked about her account being $500 from him running, accepting porn on pay-per-view. She talked about him having issues. She just told me all his perverted acts and did not give me what I needed. I never stayed a night over there again. It took me weeks to talk to her again. To this day, I think I definitely still resent her for not ever giving me what I needed. I despise him as I watch him look just like my grandpa. We call him Grandpa. He looks identical like that guy to this day. I just regret never exposing him to a way where I can save another child. Later on in years, I realized he had a baby. He had a child from a woman, and she had kids. And I used to hear that he was like fundering the kids, had fun of the little girl. And I was like, yeah, that's what do you expect? And I fell into the same thing that my family.
What is that? Familiarity? Not wanting to cause a disruption?
Yeah, it's got to be something surrounding fear of disappointing family.
Yeah.
No one never saying this is wrong.
Yeah.
And don't ever let anyone do this to you, or this is the repercussions. Never had anyone that says, this is what happens when this happens to you.
There's no known path of action.
Nothing. So I never seen it, never expected, but was told I was wrong. It was wrong when I had this interview with this guy. He made me feel that it was wrong. He made me understand I didn't deserve that. And that was just a couple of words. He wasn't trying to get close to me or figure me out or even hear that story. He just said he was so shocked of the disgust of what I'm telling him.
So this profound realization came from something that wasn't even meant to be that.
No.
It and it makes me wonder, you're in survival mode so much. You have no time to reflect. You have no time to be present. You have no time to question yourself, how you feel, why you feel this way.
Yes.
And for the very first time somebody even scratches that surface, you just blow up.
Yes. And I was like, how did that happen? What just happened? Who was that guy?
Yeah.
And then I got interested into how to feel, what psychology means. I wanted to know, how do the mind work? Why do people think like that? How do you what is feelings? What do you mean I'm having an emotional breakdown? Like, okay, my mom died, you're supposed to cry, but what I was feeling, I couldn't catch my breath. Like, trauma? Oh, I have trauma? That's what that's called? And from that moment on, I wanted to be in the world of psychology. So I changed my major from business to psychology because I wanted to understand feelings. I wanted to understand what happened to me, not ever knowing that this was part of my path the whole time. I wasn't trying to make money. I didn't know what I was doing. I'm in college because I didn't want to clean carpet.
But you followed what felt right.
I just kept following what felt right. So I make it through. I get my major in psychology and realize I can't do anything with that unless we go back to school. So what I did do was getting to what it would allow me to do is become a social worker.
Hmm.
So I was able to be a social worker for the Department of Children and Families. And boy, was I not ready for that world. It was hitting me. I saw me every time I walked in a door. Every time I heard a person's story. Every time I tried to think that this single mom is struggling and all she want to do is figure out how to survive in life. And what I experienced in my childhood gave me the grounds to give nothing but grace to the people I was supposed to judge and say you're not good enough for your kid.
In a way, you were designed for that job.
I knew where to step in to protect the kid because I never got the protection, but I knew where to step in to make sure a mom understand that you didn't mean to be where you are. It was a lot of me knowing how this thing goes that helped a lot of my families. And what really happened and how I end up getting into therapy. According to the paperwork, these moms were not good for their kids. But I'm the one in the home watching these kids every week, interacting with the families, getting to know the mom. I see that this paperwork is not lining up with who I am recognizing. So I found myself in the courtrooms when it's time for them, getting with the parents, attorneys, letting them know how to beat the case.
Wow, that's your street smarts coming through.
Yes. And now I'm still going to be involved as a caseworker so I can help this mom without taking her kid away.
Yeah.
But this is that was not allowed.
Yeah.
I had no business doing that. I was getting in too deep. Now, although I had a high success rate of reunification with kids to their parents, I wasn't fulfilled. And the only way I could have gotten fulfilled is I needed to be a therapist. We always would say, recommend the mom to go talk to a therapist or the kid to go talk to a therapist. The therapist had the most weight in the courtroom, what they had to say to determine whether or not a child will make it back home. So the only way I can help a child is I got to become a therapist.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, well, let's see if I can do something that brings value, like where I have the power to help these parents out. I'm 11 years in working as a caseworker. I did that for 11 years because I couldn't get no other job.
Wow.
I transitioned into that saying, this is the only way I can help people is to actually have a voice that people respect. Okay, I can do this.
Yeah.
Later on in life, I did go back to school and get my mental health therapy.
Is that a PhD or what is that?
Say a master degree.
Master, yeah.
A master degree in mental health counseling.
Okay. Your negative experience growing up led you to what you're doing. Some people, it leads them to drug abuse and addiction. How are you different that it led you to this path instead of a bad path?
What do you think I could come up with? Is I used to set rules for myself. I didn't want to curse at a certain age. So I'm like, when I become a teenager, 15 years old, I'm gonna say my first curse word. I just knew that all my friends that was having sex so young was just, it was so corny or so, it felt so wrong. So I was like, I'm not having sex till I'm grown, 18, hands down.
Where did the rules come from? Did that come from the embarrassment of your mom? Like, you made rules. Why?
I'm watching my society. I'm just watching the things around me and saying, wow, I don't want to be that. I don't think I want to do that. That didn't sound cool right now. Maybe when I get a little older, that'll be cooler.
Mm. So it's almost like standards, having a certain set of standards.
As I view and judge others.
I guess there's different forms of judgment.
Yes, it's the cleanliness.
Yeah.
If you're surviving, making a judgment for survival, I think that's well done.
You recognized the need for survival early on.
Without knowing that I was surviving.
Yeah, without even knowing. But your actions were a result
Yes,
of that need to survive.
absolutely.
Yeah. This feeling of needing to survive, this fear of being molested in your home, all these things are just pushed down forever and ever and ever until it can't be pushed down anymore.
My mom is gone. She's dead. And I'm holding all this resentment and disgust with my mom, blaming her for everything I did wrong. It's because my mom abandoned me, giving all the justifiable excuses to why I'm this hard person that won't break and ruin relationships time and time again, seeking love in all the wrong places. I hadn't forgiven my mom for everything I had went through as a child. I needed somebody to blame.
And that's where our stories come together. Yeah. So, yeah, can you tell that story? The one that changed my life?
What I wanted you to hear is we need to be able to forgive someone without them giving you nothing back in return. I was able to forgive my mom without her being there to say, I'm sorry. So my mom was a drug user in the 80s, crack cocaine. She didn't have a chance to survive what was set out to get you addicted to something as strong as that. I can only imagine what her story is on why an era of crack cocaine took her in. So once I realized, and this took me a lot of education, once I realized what substance does to the body, I say, okay, this was not her fault. She didn't ask for this. She was trying to survive through something bigger than what I would ever understand. I released it from there. I was like, okay, because this is a substance that would make you sell your body, sell your kids, and she did not allow that to happen to me. She gave me away to someone else because this drug would have put me in positions where they can say, your daughter, you want this drug, give me your daughter. My mom took me out of that environment. So that's where I felt abandoned. But then I had to say, what would I feel for real if she didn't abandon me? Molesting, abuse, and rape. Because the drug is set to have you wanting it so bad till you will sell your kids. So I had to come to a place of appreciating her from that. I thank you for that.
And then she followed up too, to make sure you were staying safe too.
So now I have a mom who she's watching over me.
Yeah.
Without me knowing. Now my worst fear is rape and molestation. The one time I'm walking home, someone having a hold, he's roping around, trying to make sure the environment is safe enough for him to kidnap me in my eyes. And she jumped in the car and said, not this one.
Yeah.
So for every time I'm thinking, she's abandoning me, she's protecting me. And then I say, well, Mom, why would you let me live with a guy who clearly molests his children? And I'm the only female that lives and breathe in the home with him consistently. I blamed her for many years. But because of the person she was, she saved me without even trying. This man was so disgusted and afraid of my mom. Every night while he's watching porn, I'm walking through, and he would not touch me. That was my mom saving me.
Yeah.
She saved me for every one of my fears. And I was able to come back and say, I don't need her to say, honey, I'm sorry for abandoning you. I just needed her to be who she was. I needed to understand her story. I needed to not blame her for being a drug addict and judging her for it. I needed to say, life is hard and you did your best, what you can do. And this is the outcome because I turned out okay. So once I got to a place to say, you know what? I forgive you because you was protecting me without even trying. I realized that I don't need her in order for me to forgive her. And I forgave my mom. And once I got to that place, I went back to her grave and I kneel down and I say, I am sorry. Now I'm the sorry one for never coming back to, to check for you. I abandoned you too. And who am I? Based on all my pain,
Yeah.
I did the same thing. You never know what a person's story is. And when I was talking and sharing this with you, I needed you to know that we just have to clean up our heart and we got to give our parents grace because they doing the best they can do with what they know, but they also got a story
Yeah.
of how, before your time, or how they became the person they are.
What I learned from you is the power of perspective and empathy. Like those two tools are absolutely necessary to achieve to achieve any progress in therapy. It's opening your mind to a new understanding that was always there, that you chose not to see for whatever, most likely because you're trying to see it from your selfish reason. I think we all tend to look at things through a selfish lens. Um, I think so. I think that's what I learned a lot from you is getting rid of the selfish lens.
Yeah. I mean, I could have kept running with the story. I was abandoned, what was me.
Yeah,
And I was abandoned if that it
yeah,
fits the definition.
yeah,
But you change the perception just a little bit to say, but you was also protected.
yeah,
Your mom needed to abandon you
yeah.
to save you.
In terms of, let's say, self-help, what is the defining quality that somebody needs to accept for self-help to work?
We want anyone who make it to therapy to be almost backed against the wall before they come in and say, okay, I release my story to you. We want them to be 100% ready because we touch in areas that you're not ready for. You got to be okay with crying. It's the vulnerability that allows them to open up.
Okay.
And only thing vulnerability is strength. It's easy to back away and not face it, but it's hard to be vulnerable. So that's where the strength come in at.
Yeah, and you also use that word clean heart a lot. Um, I think that word had a huge impact on me as well because I feel like, where is this coming from? Whatever I'm trying to accomplish, is it coming from a clean heart? And where I find dirtiness, I'm like, it helps me point out that's where you need to work. Whenever I
Yes.
see it's not coming from a clean heart. What was that thing? I went to Vegas recently, and all the people I saw that I didn't like, yeah, I don't know how, Trump supporters. I didn't like having that dirty heart. I didn't like what I felt from them.
Yeah.
And so I think normally I just would have been like, oh, I've got every reason in the world to dislike those guys. But yeah, it felt dirty. And so I was like, oh man, now I have to talk to Tomeccia about that. I want to talk to her about cool stuff, not this.
That was good that you acknowledged that dirty. What we do is we don't know that we have those filthy places in our heart. And you're acknowledging that this is a filthy, I feel filthy and I need to talk about this. And that's when we know that we're having a breakthrough.
Yeah. I feel like I spend so much of my adult life fighting who I am. Like I can never just be. But then I see other people who, like my wife. My wife is generally a content person, and she's got areas that she could work on. But I don't see her fighting herself all the time, every day, like I do. Like I just have more problems or something. You know what I mean? Like I'm always conscious of that's the old me. That's the old me. That I gotta stop that. And I feel like it's this never-ending battle of the new me versus the old me.
Is that since therapy or
No, I mean, I quit drinking 13 years ago. I think it was from around then, just like, so that's my first thing is like, okay, you can't drink anymore. And now, oh, now you gotta stop smoking. No more smoking. I love smoking cigarettes. No more smoking. No more weed. It starts with those easy to see things. And then as I got older, it turns more into like, oh, you shouldn't feel the way you felt when you saw all those Trump supporters gathering together. Like it took a long time to mature to that point. And then I'm sure from here I'll mature even deeper to realize other things that I need to change about myself. I don't know what my question is. I guess do we always fight who we are for the rest of our lives if we want to be better people?
if we want to be better people, we want to keep challenging ourselves. And we don't know what parts of your wife may not struggle the same sort of struggles, but have her own that she fight against, that she want to get better, but just don't look like the same as yours.
Yeah.
When it says I fight myself, she probably fight society norms, or she may fight being a mom or whatever that may look
Yeah.
like for her, being a wife. We just have our different things we hold ourselves accountable for and want to grow through.
Yeah. What do you struggle with today? I mean, I feel like we all have our battles that we're facing. What are you facing right now, and how are you dealing with it?
Maybe if I had to, I'm struggling spiritually. Yeah. I my dad, the time I did spend, they were very, very spiritual. And I know the foundation is there for me to be more of what their teaching is. And I'm fighting it so hard. So it comes with a guilt. Your mom, your parents, and the upbringing say this is how you accept life. This is how you accept it in life, through your religion and your spirituality, through the love of God and Jesus. And you taught that, you taught that, you taught that. And I'm still happy without living that lifestyle. And I'm still finding so much peace in where I'm at. So I'm like, well, maybe I haven't exploded in life, got reaps all the benefits because I'm not in my fullness of it. So I question, do I need to get more into that in order to reap all that God has for me? Am I missing out because I'm not following the path of what I've been taught all my life? And I struggle spiritually with that guilt.
So you do feel like something's missing.
It's almost like, I want to call it a quote. It's a mindset. It's almost like someone said, you need to be doing this all your life, off and on, and you're going against the grain. So I go to church and I get prayed for. Then I'm like, should I go back? Am I doing this right? Is all my blessings will come when I go and join a church? It's that spiritual, like, oh, like, why am I still happy if the only way you can be happy is in church? Oh, it's more happiness that I'll get.
Interesting.
That thing that people keep putting in your head and feeling like you're missing out on something because you didn't. I don't know if I was in the church fully and this happy, would I just give it all to saying it's because I'm in church? I want to figure out how to be solely spiritually, not religion, but spiritually happy without all the what I was taught that gets you there.
Yeah.
So that would be my only struggles right now, if I had to
Yeah.
say.
I mean, that makes more sense to me too, even though I'm not religious. Um, I think that's my problem is religion, not spirituality a lot of times, even though I don't use the word universe the same way you do. We talked about that. But, you seem like you've gone down that path a little more than me. Uh, Maybe my heart is still closed towards that. Maybe, logic is my religion. I don't know. I can't bring that world into a logical world,
Yeah.
and so it's too hard for me to get there at this point, I guess.
Well, you also have a story of your parents kind of beating you upside the head with religion at some point.
Yeah.
That
But even beyond that, I feel like I'm been able to kind of separate myself from that experience and look in. And I think just when I see how many religions there are in the world,
yes.
and like so much of it is based on where you're born, what religion you become. And so
Mhm.
it's just like I have to look at all of them. I can't look at just the one where I was born closest
Right.
to, because I'm a citizen of the world
Yes.
and they all exist.
Yes.
I would have to give them all equal standing. And in that instance, when you do that, there's just too many to like say if any one could be right.
Mhm.
Um, so I think I just try to see it as a whole.
Mhm.
As a whole, what are they doing? And I think it's a lot of hope, you
Yeah.
know, and doing good deeds and everything like that. Which morality, I mean, I feel like I have that
Yeah.
without any religion.
I just wish I didn't. I wish I would have had a chance to make a decision without it being inflicted,
Yeah.
and and I had to rebel against it, and then keep going back, and that guilt that comes with it being inflicted on you so much. So now I'm happy, but saying, "Ah, no, that's not God happy."
Mm, yeah. My next interview after this one is with my wife's friend, who I'm friends with, and she grew up in the church. Her dad was a pastor, and I'm so nervous about
Yeah.
that one because it's a hard balance. Like I told you before, she's my favorite religious person I've ever met, and so I'm able to look at her differently, you know. And I'm not looking forward to that part of the interview. I still don't know how
Yeah,
we're gonna do
no,
that, you know,
yes.
because a lot of her healing comes from not therapy but religion,
Mm.
and healing is healing regardless of,
Mhm.
you know, the source.
Yes.
What works, works.
Yes.
So, I have to be open to that concept, you know? And the judgment that I would normally have, it might not be a clean-hearted judgment, you know?
I think you just needed a breakthrough for me. What is the healing? What do it mean to be healed and not through religion? Like, I'm healed. Why am I still searching? As your friend, as you speak about your friend, she's healed through her religion. I'm healed through healing, whether it's therapy, hypnosis, whatever. We all are healed. Like, why do I feel that I'm not healed enough? Like, do it ever ends.
First thought that comes to my mind is how people who have everything and don't have to fight for anything anymore have this, first world problems, you know?
Yeah.
We live in a society that is so abundant. Resources are abundant. We're out of the food chain. We don't have to fight to survive other animals. So we have these first world problems because all the big problems are gone for us.
Mhm. So you think I'm just searching for more problems?
I don't know. I don't mean to say that.
No, no, no,
It's the
no.
first thing that comes to my head
Yes,
is
that
like we need something to look forward to, maybe.
yeah.
Just being content alone.
It's not
It's not doesn't do it. We're always searching, right? And also your journey, that search to being a better person, a happier person, is what led you to be happy.
yes,
So why not keep searching?
that's it.
I can only see good things coming out of that,
Yeah,
you know? Whether you find it in religion or anywhere else, the search should continue.
there you go. You're
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. If you could go back and visit yourself when you were in that middle school grade age, is there something that you wish you could have, some message that you wish you could have told yourself?
I always tell her to figure out who she is from her core. It's the thing that we have inside of us before we even realize that we're utilizing it. It's that core, because I went all my life trying to be cool. That's from a place of not knowing who I am. But naturally, I am a empathetic, caring, loving, ambitious, loyal individual. I would say figure out who you are. Let's start with the core, the things you do easily. I was always an empathetic person. I always felt people. And I guarded that. I guarded it because it's not cool. I lost myself all my years. And when I let go and figured out who I am from my core, those pieces made so much more sense to me. I was able to be sensitive and know that I'm sensitive. And when a person called me sensitive, I say, you're insensitive. I, I, I'd rather be sensitive than being insensitive. It's you guys that makes the world, makes war and is in prison. It's the insensitive ones that why so much chaos is going on. I like being sensitive. Where once I was told that being sensitive made me weak and a pushover. I like caring about people. When I was once told that that's not cool to care because people don't care about you. I like love. When I was once told that nobody love you, why you love other people? Ain't got no love for you. I had to learn naturally that comes so much easier for me. Had I known that a little bit sooner, I would have guided different directions in like the people that I involved myself around, the choices I made, and just the delivery of who I am to others to give and give and give. That's all I have is to give. That's what I would tell my 12-year-old self. Figure it out very soon.
What's your opinion on why we're here, this life? What is all this for? What do you think we're supposed to get out of this journey?
I think our purpose in life is to find our purpose. We have singers out there, and their purpose is to sing tunes in people's ears to give them the release of anxiety. You have artists out there that gives you a vision to be able to look at a sculpture and actually feel the beauty in it and calm some parts of themselves. You have therapists out there that allow people to get some things off their mind so they can make it to the next day. Finding our purpose. We all have a purpose, and we're just here to find it.